You may go ahead and start. All right, it's 6 o'clock, and you guys get me for a second month. Lord help you. The meeting is called to order. We are going to have an addendum or a change. What's it called?
A requested modification to the agenda to handle new business before old business.
So we will be flip-flopping those two items. So old business will come after we consider these zonings and annexations. So with that being done, we need to start with approving the minutes, and hopefully everyone got a chance to read them.
I move we approve them as received.
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next in line is our new business, and this is the consideration of the annexation and zoning assignment of two unaddressed parcels on Highway 72 East to planned development, and the tax map number is 675 at 7 and 674 at 4. And then I'm going to read the other, and then we open the public hearing, right? Okay, and then the other is the consideration of annexation and zoning assignment of 608 and 610 Willard Road to residential low density R1, and that tax map number is 637000010. So with those two items of new business, I believe we have two folks signed up to speak. And with that speaking, if Joseph is giving a presentation, is that limited to the 2 minutes?
No, his presentation is not limited to the 2 minutes. So he shouldn't speak during that time. He should speak when he presents this project, I think.
Okay, and then the Starlight Ridge would be the same
That is.
with that. Okay, so if we have no other speakers signed up, then Mr. Dykes can make his presentation for the consideration of the annexation of the two parcels on 72 East.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Dykes with Cambridge Civil. I feel like it's been a minute since I've been up here, but it's good to see you all and appreciate the opportunity to bring the Starlight Ridge development concept and primarily the annexation request to the Planning Commission. So what we're looking at, I believe each of you in your package has the overall kind of area zoning map. The parcel we're talking about is out Highway 7256 going out towards Whitmire, but on the other side of the GE facility, on the outskirts of town, there to the north and east of the interstate. So we're on the periphery of the city. Key element in being part of the city, obviously, is the utilities. This site will utilize City of Clinton water and City of Clinton sanitary sewer, and therefore requires annexation based on the kind of mutually beneficial piece of the ordinance. What we're presenting is a planned development. So the overall concept includes a commercial element, a designated area up at the front of the site along the Highway 72 frontage, and then the rear portion is going to be a campground. And that campground is going to include a mixture of both true cabins, some premium larger cabins, and then RV recreational vehicle sites. So to walk through the zoning itself, adjoining us, we have the I-1 industrial back to the west. Across the interstate is technically AR today. That's part of the Witten Center property. There again to the north of the interstate, that we are of the understanding is working its way towards an industrial use of some type is what we're kind of aware of. So we feel like the location is reasonable for the use. We're not infringing on an inappropriate district for the use, and we've also taken the time to write into this ordinance significant buffering requirements and a relatively low density requirement. So use is appropriate, we feel like, based on the location. We feel like the periphery of the city is an appropriate place to have the conversation about recreational vehicle use in the city of Clinton. So we, that's all part of the application package. Are there any questions as to, kind of that general format and where the site is and the relative, related proximity uses? How are you? Good to see you. Do you have a question? You want me to pause there for a moment for you?
A late arrival.
Can I ask about the covered area, like those covered garage examples? Is that where I asked this?
If you give me a moment, that'd be.
I just need like to understand it, that's all.
Sure. Let me get to that, because I'd say that's kind of in the architectural, what he's kind of
Right.
laying in there as an architectural covenants on top of the PD.
Okay,
So the other, kind of the other primary document, which is really, as we look at these PD zonings, is kind of the key element, and that's this Plan Development District Starlight Ridge ordinance text. So going, I believe y'all had a copy of this last week. I hope you had a chance to review it. We submitted, there were a handful of questions that Phil and I went back and forth on, where we addressed a few minor areas. But this is the, the guiding document by which any future site plan would be restricted. I want to point out that what we've laid in front of you is a site concept plan. It reflects these standards, but it's, still in a development, state where we're working through, working through topography, working through survey, all these elements to make sure that it's constructible. But this ordinance, just to, walk through some of the key features, what we feel like are, we've outlined setbacks for both the, the campground portion and the commercial portion up front, which are in general alignment with other zoning districts of the city. The key up front to us is there's an exterior 100-foot buffer. So, we've dedicated the first 100 feet off the property line to being a buffer zone, which is a very generous, as we, in our opinion, buffer to an industrial use. That's very comfortable from the development stance and what's trying to be achieved. It's probably as much to buffer the site from the adjacent industrial use, but that should be, a pretty comfortable dimension for everybody. We've also established a maximum RV cabin density of 5 units per acre, which is, really, you're talking about, 0.2 acre sites effectively. If you were to translate this, we have plenty of single family home sites that are, around the state that are on smaller lots. So that's a very, again, comfortable density, we feel like. Working our way down, we've outlined both permitted and prohibited uses. We understand that prohibited uses are something that the Planning Commission is considering working out of the ordinances. So any of this, obviously, we're happy to kind of in a working format on the backside strike through and get the appropriate document. Relative to access and circulation, NFPA largely guides the emergency vehicle access for facilities like this. Internal roads, driveways would be owned by the developer, maintained by the developer, constructed by the developer. However, there is an NFPA regulation that speaks to the suitability of the driving surface for emergency vehicles. So we've reflected that with minimum widths. We've reflected the city of Clinton fire marshal preference to have a 26-foot roadway width at fire hydrants, and maximum grades of 12%, which again are reasonable for both the RV use and any emergency vehicle type use. Likewise, water. So we anticipate public water being installed throughout the site. So that means the developers constructing, testing, and then transferring that water system to the city of Clinton for distribution. if at some point it became preferred, that could be a private system, but the intent would be to construct it to a suitable City of Clinton specification and transfer it. There would be fire hydrants required within 500 feet of all campsites, so you know you have a significant water main installation throughout. Sanitary sewer is the intent. That's going to require a lift station, you know, gravity collection system, lift station installed at the creek and pumped up adjacent to that existing industrial facility. That would all be permitted through, you know, both City of Clinton review and SCDES ultimately for permit to construct and permit to operate. We've got some basic site lighting requirements, some basic refuse distances, you know, 60 gallons per 5 sites. A lot of that reflects what we see in kind of the adjoining counties have some you know, counties and cities have some pretty good RV language that we've copied. And then, you know, again, RVs, we have a standard of that, in a, you know, a particular point here is a maximum of 180 days in a 12-month period. The intent is not to have a long-term housing type. We want to make sure that's expressed explicitly. We've got some minimum parking requirements for both the commercial and the RV sites to make sure that we're not overloaded on usage relative to parking. And then we have a landscaping requirement. I think that's a pretty general overview. You know, I'd expect that, you know, you may have some questions on that document. And I think what we've done in the past is generally even post an approval, gone through and maybe one line item here or there as made sense. So with that, the other, you know, I think kind of to what you were bringing up, Heather, y'all should have seen a design document. So the intent there, the developer has come in at this point. He was on the road there in traffic coming down, but he's engaged a firm who works specifically on RV sites. They've been facilitating both the site planning effort, but they've also worked through a pretty heavy architectural and design standard. So there's an intent here to bring a high level quality of design to the product, to the construction, which obviously that's intended to be reflective of the clientele and the intended market audience. The capture here is to try to support both the baseball facility coming, any construction that's coming, anything that's you know, that adjacent to the interstate use. We feel like there's a pretty heavy need and way to capture some of that economy that's just driving by on the interstate and going elsewhere. So let's set them here in Clinton and have meet at House Pizza. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there's anything specific on the economic side, but that's what we're here for.
I see trash receptacles, 60 gallons. Who will be responsible for collecting that? If we annex it, would that be the city or would that be a private collection firm?
That's a good question. I would anticipate. I guess I would anticipate it to be a private, kind of like any commercial, you know. But that's a fair question. That's probably something we need to navigate with Joey and the staff to see what made sense. Is it something that is the city, you know, do they want to service it on that side of the interstate? Does it make sense to pay that charge and bring a truck over there?
Seems like that'd be hard to do because you got people coming in and out,
Right.
and every space is not occupied all the time. That would be something that you'd want to handle privately instead of paying the city per container for each site. Because if you
Well-
did that, you'd have to have a container at each site, which probably wouldn't get used that often.
But they could have dumpsters. That's what I wrote, and I know that
Yeah.
the city does not
Do dump.
do dumpsters, but that might be something in talking to Joey that we need to start adding to our
No,
trash pickup.
because we don't have a truck to pick up dumpsters. That's why all dumpsters are
Right.
handled privately. And that would probably be the way they'd want to do it. I think it'd be more economic for them to do it that way.
I would think so, and that's that's written in the ordinance primarily to ensure that there's a reasonable ratio, so that you don't have a dumpster in the back corner being overloaded.
Yeah.
But as far as servicing it, I think the what sounds logical from the city stance would be to go ahead and make it a private effort, which I think most of the commercial roll-offs are around here.
In talking with the city manager, I'm sure y'all have gone over the water, sewer, and power that they can provide to this site without any additional cost to the city. Is it power and water is already out that far?
Yes, sir. So anything that would be installed out there, so there's water out there, the sewer would require, construction of a lift station, and then water would be, a main would be extended back in, but that would be cost borne by the contractor. Likewise with the electrical distribution, the city's been, they'll work out a payment plan of some type typically because of the cost of infrastructure, but
Okay.
that's borne by the developer.
Tried to call the city attorney today to get his opinion about an RV park within the city limits. I mean, that's a gray area for us because we've never had one, and most cities don't allow those. So I'm not opposed to it, but I just want to make sure whatever we recommend is legal for us to do. And I think that's a question he could answer. If it's part of a plan development, then maybe, but I just don't know. We've never run into this before. We've only had one request since I've been on planning commission for an RV park, and we turned it down for that reason. But I don't think his was cause of plan development, was it, Phil? At the shooting complex.
I will say that this plan compared,
It doesn't compare.
it's
This is very complete.
night and day.
The other plan was not. I'd be nice and say that. It was not. I won't say anymore. And they're not there anymore.
Right.
It's predictable. But, this makes sense to me in the location because of where the new baseball park's going, out that way. And a lot of people are gonna be coming in town visiting that, I hope. So this will be a good place for them to stay since we have very limited hotel rooms within reasonable driving distance of that ballpark.
Another benefit with that I wrote down in my notes is just imagining the number of employees that this will bring, or how many jobs this is going to bring to keep this place up and running. And, that's, I think so often people look to jobs coming to the community being only manufacturing type jobs. But these service jobs can really be transformative for our whole community, in my opinion. And I think there would be a large number to keep this site up and running and regulated. So that's exciting.
Who owns this property now, these two parcels? Who's the actual owner of those two parcels?
I probably, I know,
The lake property is owned by a family out of Newberry County. That'd be the front parcel. Frank Boland, Ed Al owns the back part.
Okay. So the developer doesn't actually own the property yet. They're just waiting on approval to decide whether they're gonna buy it or not.
so it'd be, the annexation would be contingent on closing, and then the deal moving forward would be contingent
Okay.
on annexation.
Okay.
Phil, would our recent discussions about roads, maintaining the roads be built to a specific standard, would that apply here?
It would. In the packet of information on page 2, it specifies that the width of internal roads, and then that also says that they will be asphalt or all-weather surface. So that would be their standard for going forward, because the plan development is its own district, its own standards. So whatever is not delineated in here would revert back to our regular city standards. If there is something in here that states what the standard is, and it deviates from what the current city standard is, this is what would be the guidance for moving forward. So in this case, to answer your question, they're going to have to provide an asphalt or all-weather surface. And that would be one question that I would have to you guys is, do you want them to specify what all-weather surface is before moving forward? Or, are they going to go back to our regular standard?
But you said the roads would be maintained by the owners of the property, not by the city.
That's
So
right.
that
Just like-
kind of relieves a lot there, knowing the city's not gonna have to come in and maintain these roads later.
Kind of like a food line parking lot.
Yeah.
It'd
Right.
be if-
That would
if-
be specified in the beginning that they would always have the maintenance of the roads.
Right.
Correct, okay.
However, our standards say that all roads, whether they're publicly or privately maintained, have to meet SCDOT standards.
Mm-hmm.
So what they are proposing is is not necessarily SCDOT standards, because in some instances, they could be gravel, is that correct?
Well, what we would lean on, and that's the NFPA standard. Standard is really what gives a loading to the roadway. So the NFPA, and I'm gonna butcher some of the specifics, but what it looks at is like axle loading on a fire truck. You know, if an emergency vehicle has to get back into the site, it needs to have a road underneath it,
It'll
and
support
then
it.
dirt and everything else that can support it. So what would happen from here is we would go back in our construction drawings, we would have a detailed road section that had a subgrade material, base material, compaction requirements, et cetera, that are really specific to the soils of the site to get to a NFPA compliant.
On down the road, would the city have any say in maintaining, requiring maintenance?
I think that's probably maybe something to think through as far as my
So we're gonna build a road, and you're gonna build a road, I'm sorry, you're gonna build a road, and 3 years down the road, we got potholes and, weak, alligator in the pavement, who's gonna maintain that?
I think the owner would maintain it, but it may have to be the city fire marshal likely coming in saying this road's impassable. We're gonna pull your certificate of occupancy for the site if you don't fix it.
They're gonna go back to your standards that says all-weather surface, and they're gonna make that determination of whether that road is passable, usable with an all-weather surface.
But if they agreed in the original zoning of the property to always maintain the roads, and the city would have no responsibility in paying for the maintenance of the roads, just
And the
specifying what had to be,
enforcement,
but
that's my
enforcement they would, but not paying for anything that had to be remedied would be at the expense of the property owners.
Correct.
Which I like, because then we don't have to worry about spending money on it in the future. It's
And the roads
their
have to be
responsibility.
maintained at some level for
Yeah.
public service.
Right.
To that facility.
I don't want us to be in the road business. These vehicles are very, very heavy, and it doesn't
Paving is
take
very
long.
expensive, yeah. We've learned it is very expensive. So if we don't have to worry about that, that's a plus for me.
So my question would be for what time period of that? Because occasionally, we have people that want to be, the contracts and the specifications to be changed, to be for us as the city to come in and maintain those.
As far as the plan development, it's like a zoning district unto itself.
Right.
And whatever it's set up to be at the beginning, that's what it's gonna
Going to be.
forever and ever.
Okay.
Unless they come back and go through this process and get approval from us and from the city council.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
What are the chances of that? What type of vision do you have for that? Being that, hopefully, of course, that this is a very viable business 10 years down the road. I mean, we talking. As John said, we don't want to be in the road business.
I believe that I guess the vision is good. I believe that the city, I don't see any scenario where the city would or I'd recommend the city take ownership of the driving aisles in there. I would say if anything, if things were to go south, there'd be a chain at the right of way and there'd be no access into the site. It'd
I
be,
like that idea.
I mean, that's how it'd have to be. The same as if, a building's vacant. I mean, it's a commercial site. It's
It's
what it has to
only
be.
to the benefit of the owners of the property to have decent roads if they want RVs and
This is
campers
true.
to come stay. I mean,
And I can't remember the periodicity, but like the fire marshal comes through our office on occasion, and they do an inspection. There are requirements that we have to do, move this stuff here. I think it'd be similar where if there's a section of roadway that's impassable, hey, these 15 sites are no longer
You have to
usable
fix
until
it.
you
Right.
fix this.
Yeah.
So we
And
get
they
back
do
here.
that.
I think
They
that'd
do
be
that.
the
Yeah.
enforcement action likely.
all right, any other?
What investment will be required by the city if we approve this? Any?
Maybe the question to Alan, if you asked him about you know, whatever that,
Never
whatever his,
question.
whatever the attorney's hourly rate, but no, sir, no investment by the city. You know, I guess there's at some point when revenues are generated out of the water line or the electrical line, if you know, just like any
I mean,
line,
I'm
I
just trying to think of a cost-benefit ratio, you know.
think it's probably pretty good.
We consider all kinds of projects, and nobody ever says, what's the cost benefit?
Well, there was something that said, what, $18,000 for the local businesses per, was it day? I mean, I know you're talking about the city, but if our businesses do well, then business licenses, you know, are going to pull in more money and,
Yeah, but there's no way to quantify that, but.
right. So that all
Yeah,
benefits the
yeah.
city.
I think what he's saying is, how much is this gonna cost the city for them to build this here? Is that
Yeah,
right,
I think he's
Ford?
saying none.
Yeah, I would say very, very nominal. The things that would, I mean, honestly, thinking through it, generally the city staff has been present for like testing of water and sewer mains. You know, so it'd be things like that. Us calling the utilities department to join us on it.
At the extent of the utilities line from GE on down to that.
That would be borne by the contractor, by the developer.
And we can specify that when we approve the plan development, that all costs like that be included, be borne by the developer.
Okay,
That's,
Phil,
that,
And I think that would be normal course of business for most of these developers.
Phil, my question would be on, page 2 when you said about, us having the all, specifying what the all-weather, surfaces look like. At what point would we have to make sure that we are clear, even though it is their property, to meet those specifications of all weather?
They wouldn't be issued a certificate of occupancy until they meet all standards that are identified in the plan.
So would it be the city's responsibility to specify what that standard would be for all weather surfaces? You understand my question?
It's beneficial to be as specific as possible in all of these standards. Don't want any gray areas.
Right.
So that there's a judgment based on individuals of this. So, you know, in that case, it's gonna be better to have some specific standards like
Right.
the engineers recommending is having some kind of standard to what those roads would be
Okay, so
internally.
I'd like to go on record that at this point, that's one of the things we really need to make sure is included if and when this goes forward.
I agree. I know this is nitpicking, but on page 3,
That's
under
okay.
operational standards, item D says no long-term residential use maximum of 180 days. 180 days is not permanent, but that's a long time. I would be more comfortable if it were 90 days. Would that be a problem to change that to 90 days? Because you ideally, RVs are gonna be coming in and out. They're not gonna come and move in for 6 months. That's a long time.
I disagree with you. More and more people are taking
Yes,
these
I
RVs and
disagree.
bringing them into parks. And
Well,
that's where they
that,
live.
well,
That's
that
their
is a good
primary
point.
residence.
That is a good point. And people
don't have
that
a
work,
problem with that.
like people that work on projects, I just don't want this to turn into a permanent encampment, if you know what I mean.
Well, it
But yeah,
can't.
if it's a contractor and he's got a job he's gonna be on for a year, I don't have a problem
And
with him
there's
staying there for a year.
somewhere in here it says no permanent attachments,
Yeah.
you know, to
It
the
does say that,
RV.
yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that that's
I just-
understood, but it also gives, as we are growing as a city, the workers who come for
Yeah.
that growth
I
will
would make
have a
it-
place to
I don't-
live.
I don't hate to make an exception for workers, but that would be a good exception for people that are coming here to work. Because a lot of them are choosing to stay in their own campers rather than staying in a hotel room for a year when they're working on a project.
Right.
I wouldn't want to do that either. Well, that's just something to think about.
So what's the problem with that?
Because some people that are not working on jobs come in here and set up permanent residence in
But if they
a
can't make
motorhome.
improvements
Yeah.
and they maintain the integrity of their site, what difference does it make? Whether they're
I
short-term or
just think
long-term?
I'm looking at worst case scenario. I just think in some limited cases it could be a problem. But I guess the 180 days would take care of that. And they could do that by moving it out for a week and then moving it back in, and then
Right.
they start their time over again.
I think that's why we looked at that 12-month period to
Yeah.
restrict that
Yeah.
opportunity,
Yeah,
the goal is not necessarily to promote dwelling.
yeah.
You know, I mean, that's something we've discussed with the developer in depth, and, that's not the intent. It's not intended to be an alternative housing
Yeah.
type. Yes, sir.
All right, any other?
The way I read this request, it's for both parcels, the lake parcel and the Boylan parcel.
Yes, sir, for both of them
I don't
being the
see
planned
anything
development.
Pertaining to landscape buffers or anything on the front parcel.
Yes, sir, I think it's broken the last, let me see which page, because we've got
Very end.
landscaping on the periphery and interior, and then we have, signage, common open space, but those apply to both, and we want, that's campground, RV, and commercial shared standards.
Okay.
So that segment, applies to both the campground area and the commercial. And then, so from a process stance, our understanding would, upon approval of the plan development, if that's the decision tonight, we would be coming back with that true development plan, showing compliance with this standard, and that's really that detailed site plan, which I think would express a lot of that. Now, the commercial is intended to be kind of a future phase, so I don't know that we would be bringing that portion of the true heavy development plan at this time, but it'd
Yeah,
be.
if you've gone as far as talking to the highway department about your entrance and also the thing they got.
We've
be
had
able
some
to
initial
provide that.
we've had some initial informal conversations with them. That location is largely driven by, there's a creek crossing, gully crossing right there. And then appropriate site distances, on 172.
Just wanna make sure you got good in and out
Yes.
for the property, because motorhomes are big and they gotta have wide enough roads to maneuver to get in and out of there.
Yes, sir, we've there's a catch-all, kind of that last line in this PD ordinance to make sure that, any of that appropriate, that DOT permitting, DES permitting, City of Clinton permitting, must be in place per the ordinance to begin construction.
Okay, yeah, I see that now on the back, access on page 6, okay.
Question about, your general, up under the general notes, get my thoughts together here. It says, about the development may occur in phases. What type of timeline are you, looking at? What does the vision, say for your phases?
Well, developer's right behind me. I think if we get approval tonight, I suspect I'm gonna call in the morning asking where we're gonna be at you guys with the development plan. So, but that first phase, will be the campground. We understand that as I'm gonna say immediate need. That's kind of the general push that then the other, commercial will feed off of. So that's how we see that envisioned and outlined, where the campground area will be the primary initial effort, and then the commercial will follow as that kind of blossoms and fills out.
Okay, so there again, my question is, what type of timeline are you looking at for phases? Let me say it this way. Upon approval, your campgrounds come in. We don't want to, where in my mind, I don't want it to be 15 years down the road, the second phase comes in. And I realize that it's all contingent on how things improve for the city. But then, in my mind, if indeed it's that type of time frame, depending on the type of monies that are invested, what is the business's vision of possibly changing it to something else. You understand what I'm saying? I hear and I see this about intent. Things change every day.
Yes, ma'am. And I think that makes sense. And I think, you know, there's some element of you know, predicting the future I'm not real sure of. And there's restrictions as what can happen in that back portion relative to a campground. The heavy costs for the site work portion of this are largely tied to that sewer main and access to that back portion of the site. So it wouldn't make sense to go into that back area in a halfway manner, because you're gonna have to put forth a lot of, you know, hard cost into infrastructure just to be able to utilize it. Maybe another way to answer that is, you know, all the stormwater permitting, all of that'll be a single permit that, you know, it can be extended. I don't want to sit here and tell you it can't be extended, but generally that's a single permit that has an initial shelf life of a few years, and it requires construction of those ponds very early in the development process. So, you know, I could defer to Jason if there's some more specifics, but I've gotten no indication in our conversations that it would be trickled in, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's very good. Yeah, exactly.
Anything else?
Minimum campsite width, 20 feet. Minimum spacing between campsites, 10 feet. That doesn't leave you much room to put a camper in there.
The 20 feet?
But you gotta be 10 feet from the next one.
That's right. The 10 feet is the 10 feet is actually a fire code thing on the campers themselves. Frankly, that language is what's reflected in all the campsites work. But a 20-foot, generally what we see is that allows for a camper, 2 vehicles parked, you know, like if it's a towing truck, and another vehicle, and then a kind of a personal space. So kind of you can see it. It's a little bit difficult to see, but those gray lines, you know, that kind of reflects how they're offset. So you have a 20-foot space, you know, let's call it 10 feet of camper on one side. Then you have another camper on the right-hand side of his space, so the reality is the campers are about, you know, 20+ feet apart.
So you got a 20-foot strip, and you gotta be 10 feet, so let's just say that's 5 feet on inside of the interior lines. That only leaves you 10 feet to pull a camper in.
You have a 20-foot camper pad, 20 by 50 gravel pad.
But you gotta be 10 feet from the next camper.
That's right. He's on his gravel pad, 10 feet away from you, at least. So there's gravel. You've got a barrier between the campsites themselves of 10 feet.
Okay. 20 feet. 10 feet between. Let's just arbitrarily say you got one here, 10 feet between, we take 5 feet off each lot. Then you go to the other side, you take 5 feet off each lot. You only got 10 feet left for a camper. Am I wrong?
I think the 10 feet is in addition to the 20 feet.
Yes, the 10 feet's in addition to the 20. Yeah, maybe that's the better way to say it is, you have a 20 by 50 box here, 10 feet over, you have another 20 by 50 box. 10 feet away from that, you know, the spaces are not touching. They have 10 feet of space between the two.
So the spaces wouldn't be contiguous.
There you go. There's a 10
Yeah.
spike.
Based on this plan.
There's a 10-foot spike strip between. There's a 10-foot spike strip between each one.
Two 20-foot strips and putting them together.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. No, so they don't. They're not. They have a 10-foot space in between the spaces.
Does it say that anywhere in here?
I think that's probably just.
It's on the standards, and then it's on this plan that they provided to you.
Yeah. You want me to scale distances off that drawing, you need to give me a 24 or 36.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Dykes. Do you have anything else to share?
No, ma'am, I don't think so.
I will say, you guys did some homework. It was really good to read and to have the pictures and the visuals. All right, so we've already discussed, now I need to see if there's a motion.
Is there
One
anyone else in the audience that had signed up to speak?
Oh,
You can't speak if you didn't
Yeah.
sign up, sorry.
I needed to hear what you said to see if I needed to speak or not.
If you're part of the people present the
Wait.
project, you can.
I'm not.
Sorry. Should've
yeah,
signed up.
we're sorry, that's where you would sign up in the beginning.
Okay.
And,
There's no open discussion.
No.
Okay.
sorry,
Whatever, when we make a motion,
Okay.
one thing I'd like to include in that motion, that whatever we approve, if we approve something, whatever we approve is subject to review by our city attorney to make sure that what's being proposed
Okay.
is legal under our current code. And
All
that's
right.
just something that.
so
he would
then
do.
if we open this up for motions, right, regarding these properties?
Yes, but before you do, I'd like to first, at your seats, I provided you a copy, a revised copy of the standards, and the highlighted sections are sections that they have modified since the packet went out last week. I will point out to you, we've talked about the all-weather surface item on page 2. We've talked about the 180 days within a 12-month period on page 3. They have provided you a revised plan showing the different types of sites. They have back-end sites, pull-through sites, and premium pull-through sites. And they also have cabin sites and premium cabin sites. And they've identified on the plan where those 5 different types are located. And then lastly is their overall plan that shows the RV portion separated from the commercial portion, which is basically the distinction of the 2 properties. Lastly, I've also provided to you at your desk it's a back and front sheet from an adjacent property owner who has some concerns about the proposal, and that's for your information as well.
Oh,
Is this the one with Charles Warren on it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's me for the record.
Oh, okay.
Reading through this, the very last item, trespass and boundary pressure, I think that's a legitimate concern of neighboring property owners, that people from the campground want to come onto their property. Of course, nobody wants somebody that's not supposed to be on their property to be on their property for many, many reasons. I'm a property owner and I'm pretty keen on that yeah, liability reasons and a lot of other things too. Is that something y'all can address by having some kind of boundary between the RV park and the neighboring property owners? Yeah.
Yes, sir, so I'm not privy to the comment, but I think it was about trespassing from the site onto an adjoiner. That's kind of the question or point?
Well, if there's no kind of barrier there, it wouldn't prevent somebody from walking onto to the neighboring property. People know they're not supposed to do that, but they do it, and it's not good for either party when they, wouldn't be good for the RV park, and it wouldn't be good for the
Yes or no?
property owners.
I think that's fair. I think that, there's a 100 foot buffer around the site. I think that it's probably pretty low hanging fruit to ensure that the camp policies, it includes some strict language.
I just think that's a
regarding-
legitimate concern of the neighboring property owners.
Yes, sir.
But a buffer's not a barrier.
A buffer's not barrier,
No.
no, sir. I think it's hard to, I think trespass is probably prolific across the state, and the
Right.
the purple marking rule and all that are indicative of that.
And if someone owns property next to me and has a vicious dog that comes on my property, I might have to build a fence. I might not want to. I
There's a
can call
cheaper,
the
there's a
police.
cheaper alternative.
I can call the police, but, you know, because that's an issue, but that ultimately, I don't know that it's your responsibility, the development's responsibility to protect.
Now, that'd be the dog owner's responsibility to control this dog, and there are.
Well, I'm just saying in
laws,
this
yeah.
instance, not so much the dog, you know, I mean, I'm just saying,
I don't believe the campground use makes it any more likely that somebody's not going to chase a gobbling turkey across that property
Right.
line tomorrow morning.
yeah.
I don't think the campground use, I think it's somewhere irrelevant.
So Joseph, since you're up, and you've not seen this, I don't think, but it's ecological concerns basically, and some of it is discussing the creek bed and the impact that the disturbance of the land and runoff and all of those items that will be taking place in both developing the land and once it's in operation could have that impact on the creek behind it. Can you speak to precautions that maybe you guys would take?
Certainly. So, site, land disturbance is what really dictates the stormwater management and design standards of the state. So, given the nature of the site, the proximity, they're going to require creek buffering for any land disturbance. For any crossings, there'll be specific permitting, sensitive water permitting generally, for any areas where, like that initial crossing, where we'll have to get into some kind of proximity to the creek. Likewise, for any kind of aerial crossings of utilities. That is largely regulated by the South Carolina Construction General Permit, and SCDES, which will be fully compliant relative to, during construction, water quality, 80% TSS containment during construction, post-construction water quality, and peak runoff attenuation. So that'll be, reviewed in depth with the state and approved there prior to issuance.
Might be a good idea to have the EPA look over this plan, because intrusion into waterways, erosion that goes into waterway, that comes under EPA, and they're pretty persnickety about stuff like that, and usually results in sizable fines if there's a problem. So I'd want to know that you've done whatever they deem necessary and reasonable to do that, to protect yourself for your own
But
liability.
you have to follow those guidelines because they're
Absolutely.
federal law, and then our state also has laws, and I think that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are laws that protect these creeks.
The Clean Water Act is the driving
Right.
legislation. So that drives down through the NPDES, is National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. So South Carolina, on a renewal basis, has a construction general permit that effectively delegates that EPA authority to state review. Doesn't mean EPA and Army Corps, specifically in this case with the creek proximities, wouldn't have inspection. They very well could come and look at the site. Part of that program, on top of the design criteria, is a weekly SEPSCI certified Erosion Prevention and Sediment Control Inspector inspection. That is part of our proposal. So we'd be out there weekly with an engineer reviewing what's going on, providing commentary back to the contractor, and generally providing a record so that if an enforcement action were taken, it would have a basis of starting enforcement.
That's for your own protection. That wasn't anything to do with the
That's-
city, yeah.
That's right, and that's largely for the developer's protection,
Yeah.
because he's gonna be the one to
That's
sign
his
it.
headache,
The
yeah.
primary
Yeah.
permittee is the technical term.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Before you move into a motion, I do want to point out that you would need a motion on whether to annex the property. And the second one would be, if you do choose to annex it, what would you assign the zoning to be? And again, the proposal is to be a planned development district. If you don't recommend a planned development district, they would not be able to do an RV park, because the RV parks are not identified in any of their zoning districts.
But if we're gonna do it, we need to make sure that whatever we zone it is, all the things they wanna do in it is acceptable in that zone.
Correct.
And if they're gonna have a store and stuff like that, it's probably gonna have to be a commercial district,
And
correct?
they've identified what types.
Right,
of
that's in the
uses
front.
Front, yeah.
Will allow for that.
Maybe have two different, zones for the two different parts of the property, yeah.
If you do make a motion to recommend approval on this, I would request that you make it conditional upon city departments reviewing and making any comments they've not reviewed this proposal. So if we get like fire, police, public works, just to
Good
comment
idea.
on it, if they have any concerns prior to going to city council.
Okay.
And a review by our city attorney, which would be the same kind of thing, just to ensure that everything's.
All right.
legal, yeah.
So with that, if we have no more questions about the handouts or discussion,
Would it be appropriate to table this until we get response back from the city officials?
would you like to make that motion?
Yeah,
Right?
first of all, would that be okay for us to do that?
It would be okay, functionally wise. I would defer back to the applicant on whether that would meet their timeline, if they had any
Right.
concerns about that.
What would the time frame be if we do say contingent upon the department heads reviewing it? Would that happen in the next week? Would it happen in the next 2 weeks?
We don't meet for 30 days, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, which would be,
I would imagine we would have a response back within the next week to 2 weeks.
yeah.
There's something in our code, I remember reading that if we don't make a decision, then after a certain number of days, it's deemed approved.
It's 30 days.
30 days, so we have to do something before 30 days. So we couldn't
Yeah.
wait till our next meeting to do it. We might have to have a special meeting to do this.
Well, no, you should be able to do it within your next meeting. If it was postponed further than that, then
Yeah.
potentially you could run into.
We just don't want
And
to
the
run over
same
the
thing is
timeline.
happening either way we do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that correct? That really was a question. I didn't phrase it that way. So if we table it, we will be tabling it for the same processes that need to take place as if we do it contingent upon those department heads.
Yes. It would allow for you to see what those responses are and see if there are any modifications that.
Okay.
Or,
Yeah, there-
or other questions that come up.
When is the date of our next meeting? I don't
Will
remember.
be
It's probably going to be less than 4 weeks.
May the 12th, so it'll be less than 30 days.
It'd be less than 30, so we'd be okay if we did whatever at our next meeting, okay? Let's make sure we're still within that 30 days.
Okay.
Well, at this point, I'm not real comfortable with not knowing what our officials say as to police, fire, any of that. That's just me. I'd rather table it, so if that's the way to do it, would be, my motion would be that it is tabled until we get some type of response from our local authorities, whatever that is, the attorney, the fire, all of that. that's, and especially, what's your time frame?
So, as Ford knows, we'd probably like to be surveying in April instead of May, June.
I'm sure.
You know, I anticipate that we're gonna be moving into that development plan, which, you know, I think generally that's how we've seen it. When there's an ordinance on the books, we're typically getting the department staff review that development plan review. And I think that's, you know, we're anxious to move forward is probably the way to say it. And we understand that getting the feedback from the staff is critical. We see you know, probably typically the gate for that would be at that development plan review. But, you know, that's probably our.
They would have to have all that done before city council's gonna approve anything. Is that right, you think?
Not to the level that he's speaking of.
Yeah.
Of course, the more information you provide, the better your answer is gonna be. However, you know, they don't wanna go to all that extent if they don't know, they don't have some guarantees that what they're doing is going to pay
They don't
off.
want us to wait 30 days and then say no.
Correct.
If you're gonna say no today. If you think there's a possibility, then move.
Right.
We
So-
don't wanna hold them up unduly, but we just need to make sure all this stuff that gets done that needs to
Like
be
Public
done.
Works and
Yeah.
Fire will just be looking at it from
Yeah.
how am I able to access this
Mhm.
development and how are my vehicles gonna get in and out of that kind of thing. It's very kind of, you know, 10,000 foot review at that point of what I was wanting to get some input on before going to city council. Of course, like what he's saying is there are gonna be more detailed plans that are gonna come to you as far as the roads and that kind of thing. But at this point, I just want to get kind of thoughts of some issues so that we can get ahead of that prior to getting all these approvals into it and then something come up at the last minute that causes a problem.
So are you saying that it could be best to go ahead and say, yes, we will annex it? Yes, we
Recommend.
will designate it this zoning, you know, plan development, with the understanding that those things will happen because that process makes it more efficient?
It does, and if there aren't major items, we can work through those
Yeah.
over time. It wouldn't be necessarily something that you would need to hold up this or any other project
Right.
for a 30-day period.
Because it'll stop anyway if they don't have what they need, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
I'd make the motion subject to all that happening. That way, when we pass it on to council, it's gonna be done before they.
Okay. So a motion to annex,
Make a motion
Into
that
the
we
city.
approve annexing these two parcels into the city, and then we have to say what we want them zoned. I would say the front parcel.
well, I think we've got to annex it first, right?
No, you gotta.
or do we
you gotta
combine
zone it
the
when
two?
you when you recommend annexation.
I'm
you have to
sorry.
recommend
I
zoning.
thought you said annex it first.
You can have two separate motions or one motion.
Okay,
that says-
I thought it was
Okay.
two
however
separate.
you wanna
My
move
bad.
forward. But there are 2 points that you would need
Okay.
to cover.
All right, so Robbie, start back over, sorry.
I said we approve annexing this property, subject to the front parcel be zoning C3, and the back parcel with the RV park's gonna be something different, or what would be?
Well, it's
the
got
best
to be
zone for
planned
that?
development.
Well, it's a plan develop, but we still gotta zone it for something. Then when we do the plan development is approved, that takes the place of that zoning, is that right?
I would not recommend you zone the different pieces, different things. They're
Just all
requesting-
of it, plan development?
They are requesting
Okay.
plan development, and that's the best proposed
Yeah.
mechanism to move the.
Okay.
The
item
mixed
forward.
use and
Yes,
the
so-
lack
So
of
your recommendation
that zoning.
towards council would be to plan development
To recommend annexation as a plan development,
as written.
as proposed by them, okay. I make that motion.
Okay, do we need to reword that or we're good?
I'm good if y'all.
Okay. All right, so is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Yeah. All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so now we will move on. I've got to pull up.
Thank you, Joseph. That was a
Yes,
good
thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Who is Charles Warren?
All right, the next item
wish he'd
is to look at the zoning, the annexation and zoning assignment of the 2 parcels on Willard Road. And it will be annexation, and then the zoning will be R1 density. Any discussion?
Are there not duplexes on that property already?
No.
It said there were 2 residential units.
I rode by and looked at it the other day. There's a house, and then there's a building next to it that looks like it's being used as a storage building now. It even has a sign up that looks like it might have even been a church at one time. But to my knowledge, nothing has been in that building in the last couple of decades at least. It's just, it's uninhabited. And I did look on the drawing. It's R1 property surrounding it, touching it on all sides other than the roads. And it's right there at the corner. So if we're gonna do it, R1 would be the appropriate zoning for it, I think.
And we would, if they put multiple homes, we would see that plan before that happens. So we are just approving that it can be that. Is
Now,
that
they'd have to-
correct?
They'd have to comply with
wait,
R1.
wait.
Yeah. Sorry.
If they requested multiple homes, you probably wouldn't see it because we would deny it before it would come to you.
Okay,
The only way they'd be able to do multiple homes if they subdivided it and
Right.
made it to the minimum lot size standards.
Okay.
So basically, it'd be one dwelling unit per lot.
okay, okay, that works.
Let me say one thing. You can't subdivide a lot in R1, so if they accept it like this, then they can't come back
Oh.
and do it. Correct.
Say that
You
again?
can't subdivide a lot in R1 without coming back and
If you
getting that
have-
approved.
If you have enough acreage, you can subdivide it without.
Well, yeah. But I mean, never mind. I'm thinking about an R1 sized lot can't be subdivided.
Right.
That's what I'm
You would have
thinking
to meet
about,
the minimum-
yeah.
Right.
minimum lot size.
Yes.
Or whatever he did, would
Right.
have to comply with the R1 zoning.
Right,
Yeah,
yes.
There
Okay,
is 1.5 acres, so they would be able to subdivide that.
yeah.
And there's no one that chose.
No one signed up to
Someone
speak?
speak on that?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
all right. And what your recommendations on this were to approve? Is
Approve
that
annexation and to approve R1.
okay?
Okay.
So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, as written? A second?
Second.
All right, all approved, raise your right hand. Opposed? It's unanimous. So now we are on to old business.
Yes, the 5 properties that Miss Darlene King Summer had before you, February, one of those two.
March.
She was requesting C3 on her properties. She had C3 on Willard Road, and she wanted to extend the C3 on the her additional properties that were R1 in order to do duplexes. The reason why she was wanting C3 is because her other properties were C3. Your recommendation was to deny C3. It went to county council, city council. When she submitted her paperwork for city council, she also included a statement where she would request city council to consider R2. Because she did that, at last night's city council meeting, they felt that it was probably good to get your input on whether you would support R2 in the area, and they wanted to get a feeling from you as to whether you would make a recommendation to them for R2 on the 5 properties, R2 on some portions of the 5 properties, or you would prefer to have the whole property R1 as it currently is.
And that's on all 5?
She owns 5 properties, and that was what the application was. At your desk, I've just given you a map that shows her 5 properties, and the zoning of all the properties around that. You could, as I said, keep everything as is. You could recommend that all of it go to R2, which eliminates the commercial aspect of it. Or if you had some concerns about R2 in that area, you could maintain R1 along Musgrove Street and provide R2 on properties that adjoin her property on Willow Road. You have some options, and at this point, I think council's just wanting some feedback from you guys on.
That's a tough call because we've always said whatever's R1 should stay R1. But, you know, I can see why she would want to do what she's.
Well, and
property.
it is contiguous to, I mean, it's C3, but if her goal is the duplexes,
So C3 was never appropriate.
you know, it does touch where other duplexes are, if you think of it that way. I would like to kind of see a plan before, and I know that's an expense.
She had provided information at your last meeting,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it is not in your packet,
Yeah.
and I don't have it available for you right now. I could.
Actually, we did not get it the last meeting. The developer showed up as we were adjourning,
Right, and
handed things out.
And I have their information, and that information was shared with the city council in the packet last night. At this point, I guess the real question is, would you feel comfortable with the allowance of nothing more high intensity than duplexes on any or all of these properties?
But her proposal allowance that everything on Musgrove Street would remain R1. That's her request.
No,
No, that's just what we discussed.
her request was to have all of her properties to R2.
oh, I
for
think,
duplexes.
definitely on Musgrove needs to be R1.
Right. Okay, so I'm a little bit confused. There's more than 5 specifications here, so what is it we're looking at again?
All green, I think.
All the green?
Yeah. She wants to make all the green R2 is what she's requested, right?
The portion that says proposed R2 and remain R1, those are her properties.
Okay.
But what she wants is all R2.
That was her request.
That's her
to city council.
request, okay.
Well, Heather, were you?
I just think R1 on the front of Musgrove because that is what is on that street. And that is an historic street. It's part of our historic district. And I think that line, the historic district line, goes beyond there. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't mean they have to have historic homes. I know that. But I just think R1 is what's appropriate on that street. My opinion.
And my feeling was part of the reason we denied it was based on a lot of the things that we heard from the public. So, in my opinion, definitely R1 stays R1. Now, R2, the proposed R2, I'm kind of like for it, I'd like to see something more definite.
Yep, that property now, what is it zoned right now?
R1,
It's on now R1, yeah,
Everything?
all of it, yeah.
all of it is R1.
And there are houses on that R2 area.
Yeah, there's a couple of houses back there. I rode back there, I can't remember how many.
Yeah, I
two or
don't
three.
think she intends, she or her investor intends to keep. I don't think she intends to keep all of the houses or at least some of the houses.
Right.
Right.
So some of those houses, some or all of the houses will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be interested to know what the neighborhood believes. You know, I mean, they showed up and spoke.
Yes.
And
Got one of them here now.
Yep.
Two of them.
But to do that, we have to have a public hearing, right?
Right.
Can we have another public hearing if we wanted to? Or is that something we can even do? I don't know.
You can table the matter, schedule a public hearing for your May meeting. However, it had been scheduled for city council last night. They did not take action. I believe that was scheduled for, originally had been scheduled for the city council meeting before that, and there was some scheduling issues for that. So if you did that, I would encourage city council to still consider first reading in May, even though they wouldn't have your recommendation if that's what you choose to do.
Wait a minute.
It's just us now. Go ahead and ask your question. I think.
Well,
Yeah.
They
Yeah, city council denied C3. Yeah.
just tabled it, sent it back, they denied it.
They denied it, but they were
right.
asking
For us to look at it.
I
first.
thought they just tabled that
No.
item.
They made a motion to table, then they withdrew that, and then they voted it. They voted no.
Oh, okay, when
So
Danny
basically-
came back.
Basically, we're like starting over, right? We could.
You could, but you still have, the matter still has your recommendation of denial of C3.
I'm just personally, I'm gonna say my personal opinion is to deny it until this is a different plan from what the neighbors heard before, and I believe that the folks that live on this street have the right to have a chance to speak.
Okay.
That,
I
and
agree.
that's my motion.
Okay, I second that motion. I think they do have a right to speak again, because now it's something different than what was originally what was originally proposed was voted down. And so now it's like we're starting over the process, I think, if it's legal to do that.
Well, and council can still hear it and decide on it,
Yeah.
correct?
After we make a recommendation.
They could have until they denied it last night.
Yeah. When they denied it last night, that stopped that process. Now, if we want to start another process, we got to really start over again and have another public hearing, I
Yeah.
think, would be the fair thing to do, to let the residents around it.
All right, so
have
I
their say.
denied it, you seconded. Ready for a vote?
Denied what?
We didn't deny
Oh.
anything,
I didn't, I thought I did say,
No.
I denied
because it's already been denied. Yeah, it's already been denied, yeah. So that's why I say we're starting over. Her original
Yeah,
request was denied, but if we want to look at an alternative for her to present, then we have to have
Yes.
another public hearing, I think.
So I think what I would then make a motion for is for there to be another public hearing with her newly proposed plan for this area. Is that right, Willie?
I think
That-
she should make a request for what she wants to do with it now, then have the public hearing, and we'll,
Just like starting the process over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
That's my motion,
I'd like to
is,
see what she's thinking.
Okay.
That would be the fair thing to do for both parties, is to let them.
okay, so the
Start
motion
again.
is a new public hearing with a new plan for the annexation and the zoning. Not annexation. Is it annexation?
No, not
Zoning.
annexation.
Okay, so who's gonna second that so we have it right?
I'll second it.
All right,
But she's still got to request it. If she doesn't request it, we don't have to do anything.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then all in favor in asking for that. All opposed? Or any opposed? Oh, that's right.
He's recused, yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're set.
He's an
Right.
investor.
Tell her to make a new request.
Yes.
Yeah.
He wants to
And we will,
invest.
we will schedule that as early as the May meeting, once I receive her application.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, just for me to be clear,
And I think
This-
that's the reasonable and fair thing to do for everybody, yeah. Okay.
just to be fair, does, will she be notified that
Yes.
she has to do another, request?
Yes, and once we
Okay.
receive the application, then we will post the signs, send notifications to adjacent property owners, same
Okay.
that we did last
Okay.
time.
All right, so there is no development review, is that correct? All right, any other discussion items? Planning director's reports and recommendations?
I have nothing.
Planning chair, I do have data, but I can share it when we're back there in the other room. Do y'all want the real estate update?
We'll do that
I
back
can,
there.
in there?
Yeah.
All right, anybody else?
We can do it.
I'm good.
All right, does anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
All right, a second? All in favor?
Yeah. you can vote on
Okay.
that. We're adjourned, thank you.
Oh, goodness.
Now we get down to our land use plan.
What does it feel? You had this funny look on your face.
Yeah, sit down.
Just then,
He's
like,
hungry.
oh, okay,
Yeah. By the way, you
Did you
did
get
a
it?
very good job.
okay.
I want to recognize you that you did a very good job on the minutes last month. I read through them several times and they were very well prepared.